Here we are with a critically acclaimed, is what I'm going to call you, fitness guru, athlete, and best-selling author. That's just a lot of titles and a lot of things that I haven't achieved, but I'm very glad to have Heather on the podcast today, specifically to talk about her business, what she does in the fitness world, but how that all correlates to you, your mindset, and how to continue on your journey, whatever that journey may be. So I appreciate you coming on, and I like how it's sunny there. It's not so sunny here, which is nice. But why don't you tell us more about yourself, Heather?
Yes, thank you so much, Joy. And you know what? That's the one benefit of living in Southern California is, for the most part, we have sun most of the year, and that's why it's hard to leave.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm a health and fitness strategist at Renovate Fitness, and basically what I do is help people that are struggling to lose weight learn how to shed the fat on their body, build muscle, and do that without giving up the things they love, but also based on their unique biology, because our bodies and our DNA are obviously all different, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. And so it's kind of like a puzzle, and taking a look at how their bodies react to the changes that we're making and seeing which path is the right way for them. And that's, in a nutshell, what I do as a whole. But I'm also, like you said, athlete coach. So I actually also do endurance coaching and obstacle course race coaching as well, because it's part of what I love to do. And so health and fitness has just been a passion of mine. And so that's why I decided to one day make it my actual career and kind of jump out of the corporate world, which I was in for quite a while.
We talk a lot about how I use the analogy with people's diet and money and how they're very much the same. And we always talk about how you got to get away from a diet fad and changing your lifestyle to who you are. How true is that from your side, from your point of view, from being a business owner, an athlete, and dealing with your clients, that changing your ability to think about it as a lifestyle as opposed to just like a diet or get skinny quick or get rich quick?
Right. And to be honest, that's very common because in the media, there's so many products or programs out there that are catching the attention of everyone that is struggling to reach whatever goal they have with their health and fitness or with their business or with their lifestyle or whatever it may be. And they're jumping on the emotion and the struggle and trying to get them to react quickly. But the issue with that is, yes, a lot of people will react quickly, especially if they know the jargon and the images to use. But when you go the route of trying to achieve something in a really quick manner, it's not going to be sustainable. And that's the issue. Whether it is dealing with your diet, with your fitness, with your lifestyle, with your business, things take time. And I always tell people, in order to change a habit and behavior, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, think about it. We've had these habits and behaviors 10, 20, 30 years. It's not going to take, one night, 10 days, 30 days even, to just change it. I mean, it's ingrained in who you are. It's ingrained in your mannerisms. And so you have to take the long road approach in order to be able to make the change properly. But the key is to be able to sustain that change. And so that's why I'm a proponent of looking at the long game. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of ways you can make some quick actions and make some change quickly, but a lot of times that's not sustainable. So it's trying to find the balance. I mean, yes, if you have a goal, you need to achieve something within a week. I mean, yeah, there are some things you can do, but even if you hit that goal, it's not going to be sustainable because you didn't change the behavior. You didn't change the pattern of what you're used to doing. And that's where the mindset comes in, and understanding and knowing and learning what has happened in your past, what has triggered the way you respond to everything that's causing you to go down this road of the same habits over and over again.
So this happens a lot coming from the corporate world. I'm speaking on business ownership now, right? So most people are in the corporate worlds, usually where they start a side business and then they go full-fledged into their business. Talk us through what you just said about mindset and being able to change. How and when did that occur for you to make that jump to doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, of course. So initially, I would say I've always been an entrepreneur by nature. Like even when I was a teenager, I was walking dogs, I was babysitting. During the holidays, I would wrap gifts for the neighbors in the yard, in the neighborhood. I was doing anything I can to make extra money. And then I would buy candy in bulk and resell it to my friends. at a profit. I mean, I was always trying to find ways of having my own money so that I could get what I want. Because growing up, I mean, yes, your parents will, get you what you want for the holidays, but there's always more, right? There's always more. And so I was like, how can I find a way to sustain myself? And so I did that as a teenager, and then obviously grew up, went to college, and then was like, okay, I need to figure out what I want to major in. I didn't really, originally, I thought I was going to work with children because I always had been really good with children. So I majored in child development, went to my first year of college at Whittier College. And then when I was on campus that first year and taking all those classes, and I realized I am so over working with children. I've been doing it for so many years because even when I was a young kid, I was the teacher of the preschoolers at Vacation Bible School at my church every single summer. So even at 13, I wasn't an assistant. I was the actual teacher. And I just thought that was the natural progression. But those classes were so boring to me. And who knows, maybe it's because I was like, I've been there, done this. And then I was like, well, now where do I go? Like, I was going to major in teledevelopment. This was my future. And so then I decided just to go back to a JC because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, well, I have to get liberal arts done. I don't know if that's still the case the way it is now, but back in the day, you had to get those general education classes in. So I did that. And then it was time to go back to a 4-year university because, you got to go to school, you got to go to college, you got to get your degree. I mean, that's how I was raised. So that was my mindset at the time. Right. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, well, I'll just major in communications because no matter what you do in the future, you have to be able to communicate any product, service, or whatnot. So I went to Chapman University and majored in communications with a copy creative emphasis, dealing with writing. And it turned out to be fine. I mean, I learned how to communicate. I learned how to write better. And even when I got out of college, I still didn't fully know what I wanted to do. So I, jumped into the corporate world, being an assistant, and then moving up in the ranks. And then what I realized when I look back, because I was in the corporate world for about 10 years, and I look back at those years, I kept bouncing around every couple years to different jobs. And at the time, I didn't know why. I just kept leaving and going somewhere else. And I look back now, I'm like, oh, I was trying to find something that I enjoyed, that I looked forward to doing every day, and something that would spark emotion and desire within me, and then joy, but I didn't realize it at the time. I would just keep leaving. But the benefit of that was I was in so many industries. I had so much experience. I mean, going from a medical device company, I did their marketing, and working for the Security Exchange Commission, all the partners at an auditing and accounting firm, working at a publications company that dealt with all the magazines that you see in the grocery stores. Actually, I don't even know if these magazines are still around, but like Dog Fancy, Cat Fancy, Bird Talk, I would handle all the complaints that came in from the magazines. And then, I was the manager of a legal documentation service working on people's bankruptcies and their living trusts and their wills. I mean, I guess I'm one of those people that I constantly love learning. I always want to know more. And if I get good at something or master something, I get bored and I move on. Yeah. And so after 10 years, I would go after work and go on a run with friends or go to the gym and work out, just kind of doing my thing. And one day a friend and I were running and I was like, I'm so tired of doing what I do every day at the auditing accounting firm. It's like, it's not exciting. She's like, why don't you become a personal trainer? She's like, you're always running. You're always going to the gym. And I was like, personal trainer. And I was like, all right, well, let me go home and look and see what they do. And I looked online and it's like, okay, even though I would go to the gym back in the day, you didn't really see many trainers, on the floor. And I was actually one of the few women that would be in the weight room lifting weights. And I didn't know what I was doing at all. I would just watch the guys that were in there and I'd see what they do. And I just grab a dumbbell that I could lift and like, say, for example, okay, I'm going to stand and do bicep curls or whatnot, Yeah. And that's kind of when she sparked that question in me. And I went online and I was like, well, let me see. And so I looked online. There were a lot of jobs people were hiring. I was like, well, let me see. So 24 Hour Fitness, send in a little request. They're like, yeah, come for an interview. I go to the interview and they hire me on the spot. And I was like, okay, great. That was exciting. But when I think back now, I'm like, I had no experience whatsoever, but they hired me because at the time I fit the part. I fit the bill. I looked like I was in shape and everything. Yeah. And what's also pretty scary is that I went through a weekend course and got certified over the weekend.
A
at
weekend?
24 Hour Fitness. Yeah. It's probably not that way anymore. And
Right.
then I had the requirement of getting certified by a national agency within 6 months.
Okay.
Well, what's interesting is like they gave me clients like the next week, and I still barely knew what I was doing. So it's funny because I think back of the trainer I was out versus who I am now. I'm like, oh my God, such a world of difference. But a big part of this for me, and we're talking about that mindset, is like you have to recognize if what you're doing now, are you happy? Are you feeling fulfilled? I mean, yeah, there was a lot of perks. To be honest, when I started as a personal trainer, I was doing it part time every night and on the weekends after I would get off of work. I did both jobs. I worked nonstop. And it's because I loved the fitness aspect, but I knew I was making good money in the corporate world and I had all these benefits, health insurance and 401k and everything. And then after doing that for probably like a year and a half, 2 years, I was like, you know what? I need to make the jump, and it's going to be a scary one living like this really nice income and all these benefits, but I'm just not happy doing it anymore. And so I ended up leaving the corporate world, went full time into the gym, and it was hard at first because I no longer had this regular paycheck that was always a set amount. But if you really desire something enough and you really have that mentality to like do whatever it takes to succeed, which I think is really important. You can't be someone who gives up really easily, then you can make it work. And now here we are. I mean, that was 2006 when I first became a trainer. In 2008 is when I decided to go full time with my business. And back then I created Full of Life Fitness and then rebranded in 2016, which is now Renovate Fitness. And I never look back. Like I love it. But one important part is taking a look at all of your history and your past, taking what you've learned from all of that and still applying it to the future. Because, for example, in the health and fitness industry, a lot of people love getting into this industry because they want to help people. And that's great. But you're not going to be successful just because you want to help people. Like it's a cutthroat industry and it's not easy. You're going to work a lot of hours, but you need to have a little bit of sense of, you know, how do I run a business if you actually want to be your own boss? Or if I'm going to work for a company, what else do I need to do to make sure I get enough shifts and hours and maintain my clients? So when going from any job into a career, the first part is scary, is coming to that realization that, wow, I'm really not happy. And either I know what I think I want to do or I don't know. And then doing what it takes to either find out or to take that jump. And that leap is the scariest part. It really is.
And that leap is it's not only scary going from job to career, but going from your lifestyle, how you're living, to a better one, to all of that is scary. And that's okay though. It's okay to be scared and to worry about the risks that are involved. But
Yeah.
ultimately, if you have someone there or a team or a mentor, somebody in your court as well to help you, then that's only going to make it that much better. And they're here for you, right?
Yeah.
And that's important on any journey. We speak about it on the wealth journey all the time. And I know you do on the fitness side, of having someone there that's always got your back through it, because it's a grind and it sucks. It's not easy to transition who you are to the better you at all. But once you get to the other side, you always look back and never regret a minute of it.
Yeah.
When you're working with clients, like what type of clients do you take on? Who comes to you? What type of person is wanting to work with you?
Yeah. So I do get over the years, because I've been in this industry for over 18 years and I've trained thousands of clients by now. I mean, so many, because I was a running coach for Nike at one point. I was a triathlon coach with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society team in training, and then obviously worked at various gyms, and then obviously created my company. And people, what I've found over the years, they get drawn to me by my personality, my honesty, and me just being real. And that's one of the biggest things I hear. Because when I talk to a prospect, or when I have a client, or when I say, how did you hear about me? What made you reach out to me? Or what made you choose me as your coach? And they're like, well, you're honest and you're real, and you don't hide the fact that you're also struggling. And so that you're very relatable. And so I think that's a big part of it, is the fact that I'm not trying to put on a show as this perfect fitness guru, as you called me. Like I still struggle. I still have, issues. I mean, I'm not always 100% on point. And that's one of the biggest things I try to, educate my clients about. It's not being 100% perfect. We will never be perfect. We're all going to have ups and downs. Life is going in all different directions and we never know when something's going to shift. But the key is being able to shift along with whatever's happening. One of the biggest things I've learned over the years is control the controllables, which I'm sure you've heard that term before, right? And it's a term people hear, but it takes one day for it just to hit you and you're like, wow. And so when things happen that may not be what I wanted to happen, or they're not going the direction I wanted to go, I take a look at, okay, I can't control this. I'm not going to let it consume me and stress me out. I mean, yes, it'll pop into my head occasionally, but what part can I control and where can I make change? And that's what I focus on. And that's what I'm also, teaching my clients. But it's not something, like I said, that happens overnight. It takes time. I mean, we're so ingrained in our behaviors. And a lot of this is from our childhood, past childhood trauma, or, the environment we grew up in, how we were raised. Not that things are necessarily bad or good all the time, but it's just during those pivotal years, growing up as a child, that's what we were exposed to. And that's what we learned from, whether it's mechanisms to protect ourselves or ways to make us stand out more or to get what we want. When something works, we're like, okay, I'm going to remember that, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And you're like, I'll do that again. But like I said, it's not always conscious. A lot of times it's unconscious. And that's why to shift behaviors and habits takes time, because I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trying to go deep in. My husband is. That's where he specializes. But I'm dealing with it with my clients on a different level. And another key to being successful with it is going one step at a time and not trying to change too many things at once. It's easy to get excited. I'm one of those people. I get passionate. I have desire. If all of a sudden I learn about something and I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so fun. I want to do it, right? And I will put 110% in and I will give it all I got. But then sometimes the downfall of that is I'll get burnt out really quickly because I put so much in. And so it's about finding balance. It's about doing it at a pace that is maintainable and just celebrating the small, quick wins that happen here and there. And all those small wins build up to the bigger wins. And this is applicable in anything, like you're talking with wealth, with finances, with jobs, careers, your lifestyle. I mean, it really applies to anything.
It really does. And that's very, very key. We haven't talked about people's diet or how much they weigh or any of that. We haven't talked about how much money people have. What we're talking about is the mindset part, because that's what we deal with. No, I'm not a psychologist either, and nor do I want to be. However, we have an aspect of both of our careers that we have to have some of that because it's all intertwined. There isn't this, I forgot what podcast number it was, but we were talking about the emotions of what people make decisions, because we're all emotional. I mean, we're humans. That's what happens. None of it is separate. If you look at it like from a pie perspective, or it doesn't matter what you look at it, but nothing is separate. Just because you're really good, your money's really good, doesn't mean that your fitness is good. Just because your fitness is good doesn't mean your mental mindset's good. Doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? Like none of those are separate from each other. They're all integrated. And when you can align all of them and they're all good, or at least you have the ability to work on them together, that's when you start to see people be successful and take these leaps and bounds. And that's what I found too. The most successful people that I know from a money perspective have their mental health in line and their fitness and their health and fitness in line. All three in line, they're very successful. When one of those goes out of whack, something's out of whack. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. Everything needs to be worked on at the same time.
That's true. And, I realized I didn't completely answer your question from earlier about the kind of clients that I attract, because I'm one of those people. I can go on and on and on. You get me talking, I will go on tangents and then but like you're saying, it's all about putting it together. And those are the type of people that I enjoy working with, are people that understand it's more about the long-term game than the short-term game. Even though I have a lot of people looking for those quick wins, and sometimes we can attain those wins. But the thing is it has to be important to you. So the people that I prefer to work with are someone that this is important to them. Their health and fitness is of value. And it may have not been in the past, but it is now. Either, unfortunately, sometimes because of diagnoses or issues going on medically or health wise. That's a lot of times why people start the journey, is because they got a diagnosis. But other times and I love it when someone's like, I see myself heading in this direction and I don't want to end up like so-and-so, someone in their family or whatnot. And so that's ideally the type of person I'm looking for, is someone who appreciates the long game, knows that they're going to have to do the work, because I'm here to guide you. I'm here to help you figure out what kind of biofeedback markers are we looking at, taking a look at stress, libido, digestion, hormones, food timing, macronutrients, micronutrients, energy, exercise. I mean, hormones, it all coincides. And then seeing how your body responds to the changes we're making, and then shifting when we need to. And that's what takes time. And so I try to be very upfront with people at the beginning and kind of let them know this is not an overnight process. I'm here to guide you, but I can't do the work for you. I can't control what you're putting in your mouth. I can't control how much effort you're putting into your workouts. You know what I'm saying? I can't control what you're telling yourself in your head, but I can help guide you and lead you down the path to get you to the desire that you have. You know what I'm saying? And then I also end up getting people reaching out to me that are looking to train for races. So for example, road races, trail races, obstacle course races, triathlons, swimming, biking, running, all that good stuff. And those people are a lot of fun. And I really love it because, especially when there's a race they have in mind, they're like, I want to do this. I'm like, great. And I really find joy and pleasure in working with beginners and intermediates. Maybe they don't think they're capable of something, like they've never run a 5K, which is 3.1 miles. It's like, all right, you've never done it. That's okay. Let's get you there. You just have to have that kind of like initial, that sounds exciting. Well, then let's do it. Working with professional athletes and elite athletes, I'm sure is very rewarding for some, but for me, I just don't find as much joy in it, because my tagline at Renovate Fitness is find your athlete within. And so my goal is to help everyone shatter those self-imposed glass ceilings we put upon our head, right above us. It's like, we can see up there, but we put this glass ceiling there and we keep ourselves here. It's like, I want to help you break through and shatter that glass ceiling. And let's help you find that athlete that's within you, whether it's never been found or it's been buried for a while. A lot of people are like, oh, in high school and college, I was an athlete. I played football. I ran track. And now I'm this, it's like, all right, well, let's bring that athlete back out from within. And then there's people that, I've never done anything. I've only walked down the block. That's okay. You can do it. And so that's a big part of it, is I'm here to inspire and motivate, guide, be a representation, and kind of hold you accountable. Not kind of, actually, that's a big part of it, is holding you accountable. That's why people reach out, is they're looking for someone to hold me accountable. I mean, them accountable. I also need people to hold me accountable. I mean, that actually leads to another. I also myself hire coaches. I go through periods where I'm like, you know what? I need someone to kind of put their foot down with me a little bit, because I'm designing programs for clients all the time and I'm helping motivate and inspire them. Sometimes I just don't want to think about what I have to do. So I too go out and hire mentors, coaches, and trainers. I walk the walk, I talk the talk. That's what I try to do. And just like everyone else, I'm not perfect. I struggle, but you just have to reach out. You have to take that first step.
That's an important piece for those business owners that also are listening and are like doing all this at the same time. You cannot wear all the hats all the time.
Right.
You cannot be that one, because if you are, you're going to lose yourself somewhere down the line, whether that's your mental health, your health and fitness. Somewhere you need help too, just like you're helping your end client. Like, you need that same thing. And that's a very, very, very important piece for most business owners to understand, is you need to hire a team to help you be successful. And that's the same thing as most athletes, right? We have a team around us. Even if you are a golfer or a wrestler or whatever, name it, and you're in a single person sport, you have trainers, you have athletic trainers, you have doctors, you have a team around you no matter what. You just don't think about it that way.
Right.
You have to have that in life, whether you're a normal person, business owner, athlete, doesn't matter. Make sure that you have a team. You had spoke about it takes time, right? This is a journey. Well, Heather, how long does it take then, right? I'm coming to you. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to do it. I want it done in a month. What's realistic in terms of changing, your lifestyle? Obviously, there's a lot of variables that go into it. I know that, but how much time are we talking here?
Well, there is no set specific time, even though people always want a time. Because if you think about it, everyone's DNA is different. Everyone has a different history. Everyone's currently in a different state. And everyone's goal, even if it's a lot of times I want to lose 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds, and that's a lot of what I hear. It all boils down to how much effort do you want to put into it? And how accurate do you want to be? So a good example is someone coming, oh, I once was doing this diet and I lost 10 pounds in like a month. It's like, yes, you can do that. It is possible. But what happens is they regained that 10 pounds plus some because it was not sustainable. They took such drastic measures to reach that goal that it's not sustainable. And so when I tell people, my biggest thing is educating. I love to educate my clients. I mean, you're not going to have me as your coach forever. I mean, it is true. I still have clients with me that have been with me for 12 years. Sometimes they just don't want to leave. But, my goal is to help you at minimum educate yourself and learn, get a grasp on it so you can handle it on your own, But what happens is muscle's more dense than fat. And a lot of people don't realize this. And a lot of people like to say, oh, muscle weighs more than fat. And it doesn't necessarily weigh more than fat. It's more dense than fat. The fibers of muscle are denser than fat fibers. So a lot of times, for example, let's say 5 pounds of muscle looks like this, right? And then 5 pounds of fat looks like this. It takes up more space because those muscle fibers are more dense, right? So when someone comes to me and they haven't been working out or they haven't been moving appropriately or not eating appropriately, and we get them started on a program, I'd let them know. I said at the beginning, there's a possibility weight's going to stay the same or go up. Because as you start building strength, and we're also working on correcting the dysfunction and imbalances in their body, that is going to add on to the scale. But at the same time, we're going to also hopefully be working on some lifestyle factors, sleep, stress, nutrition. But it's not all going to just be like, okay, I'm just going to drop pounds right away. Because if you're working out, you're going to gain muscle. And so it takes time. And I tell them, I said, the more muscle you have, the more fat you're going to burn. So it's more like a reverse cycle. And a lot of times I have to see how people have been eating when they come to me. And many times I have to put them into a reverse diet before we can actually go into a fat loss phase. And what that means is I have to actually get them to consume more food on a regular basis, most commonly more protein. Most people don't eat enough protein. And then we have to see how your body responds to find your maintenance point. Once we get to your maintenance point, then it's about, okay, let's start a deficit, meaning let's go into a fat loss phase, but we have to go into it in little increments, just like we go into the maintenance phase and progress up in increments. So to be honest, a lot of people ideally should gain weight if you're looking at the scale at the beginning because they're not eating enough. And we have to fix the metabolism. I call it, you're in the metabolism trap and we need to get you out of that. Guilty. And so we've all been guilty. I mean, I go up and down all the time, but all of this that I'm talking about, and I'm just getting now into the fat loss phase, this takes time. It happens over months. And depending on how dedicated the person wants to be and how strict they're going to be with like being honest with what they're tracking or not tracking or how they're eating or how much effort they're putting into their workouts, sometimes it can take years. So some people, it can take years to get to that right point. But the key is they can maintain it and not be yo-yoing up and down. Versus the people that, yes, there's people out there that say, I'm going to help you lose 20 pounds in like 30 days, 60 days. Yeah, you can lose that. But guess what? The moment you stop doing everything that you're doing, which is usually being pretty drastic, you're going to go back and then you're going to gain some. So my answer, all in all, is it could take months to years. If you want to be realistic.
And it's true because you're changing a lot, right? Obviously, you're changing what you're physically doing, but you're changing your mind and your mindset. And that takes long, no matter what you're doing. Ultimately, that does take time. The chemical imbalancement, like I said, I was guilty. I used to do a lot of intermittent fasting and all of a sudden, like just very sluggish and tired always. And then I, decided to get smart, just figure out like how much calories am I taking in? Well, I'm 240 pounds. Obviously I have muscle on me. I was only taking in like 16 to 1800 calories and in a huge, huge deficit, right?
Yeah.
just didn't think about it. I was in a normal routine, being fine. And so even 2 weeks ago, I said, you know what, we should probably eat more, and started eating more. My energy's back up. I'm more focused. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, my weight went up, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's starting to trend in the right direction. Now, I'm luckily enough, I'm an athlete. I've been through all of this. I know what's going on with my body, but a lot of people are in that same realm where they feel that way. And it's like, you need to eat more. Can you talk us through like how, I don't even know the right words or the right question, but the more I eat, the more energy I have, the more muscle I put on, the more actual fat I burn. Can you talk us through like how that actually works? Because most people are like, I'm eating more, I'm gonna get fatter. It's like,
Right.
not
Well,
necessarily.
first off, I tell them we need to put the scale in another room, in a closet, or get rid of it, because people are addicted to just getting on it. Because like I said, the key is changing body composition. We want to increase muscle mass, decrease body fat. That's why I like to talk about shedding fat, and not, society talks about losing weight. And I've always hated talking about losing weight, but unfortunately, I have to use the terms that society is so used to hearing and what they use. I prefer to say, let's decrease body fat or shed fat and gain muscle, but everyone's talking about losing weight. So it's one of those things, it's about education. But when you start, a lot of times it's getting them to understand that it's a process. It's not going to happen quickly. And the scale may go up, but let's not worry about the scale, because you will start sleeping better. You will have more energy. You won't be tired. You won't be as sluggish. You will be able to perform better in your workouts because you're going to have the appropriate nutrients and fuel for your workouts. At the same time, it's going to de-stress you a little bit because you're taking away a lot of the stress of the body, always being in that deficit state. Like you were saying, you were only consuming 16 to 1800 calories, but you were certain weight and you're an athlete and your body needed more. So it was so used to running on such low fuel, it was storing fat as fuel, because it's like anything you consume, it's like, I need to hold on to this because I know I'm not going to get enough. And so what happens is we actually have to get the body, and it's weird because, your mind, but the body has to, in a way, get comfortable with, okay, I see that I'm getting fed more now. It's happening on a regular basis. Maybe I don't need to hold on as much. And I'm trying to put this in layman's terms so people can understand. So let me kind of only hold on to this and let go a little bit of this. And so what happens is you start working out, you're building muscle, you're eating more. Obviously, the scale will go up a little bit. Sometimes it'll actually maintain, which is fine as well, because you're kind of doing that balance. Hydration is a big part of it. Most people don't drink enough water. You need to make sure the systems and the processes of your body are functioning. And then what happens is, as we get to a point where we see that your body is not gaining or losing, it's kind of hovering for a bit, we may be close to your maintenance point. I mean, there's a lot of factors, obviously, we're taking into consideration. But once we get there, then we do a test of going down. Obviously, I'm doing calculations behind the scene of, what is their weight, how what's their daily activity like, what is their exercise like, because it's not just what you do in your workouts, but it's how are you moving throughout the day? Are you someone who's always on your feet? Are you someone who's sitting? That all takes into consideration. And then it's a matter of constantly doing these calculations, adjusting, having the client respond by doing what they need to do. Ideally, it doesn't always happen. And that's okay, because I don't expect anyone to be perfect. I never am like, you need to hit exactly this number, but I give them a guide. And as long as we're in a range, then what happens is, let's go into a deficit. Let's see how your body responds. But we also have to take a look at all those other biofeedback markers. How's your energy? How's your sleep? Is it starting to affect something else? Because maybe 500 calories right now is good for one person, but 300 calories needs to be good for another person as we decrease. And it's a process. And that's why it takes so much time, because I need you to be in a certain range for at least a few weeks before we make another change. And then, when we talk about women and our menstrual cycles and, premenopause, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, well, that adds a whole nother layer.
The equation just got a lot longer.
Yeah. But really, as long as someone has patience, I mean, a big part of it is they're trusting me as their coach. I'm trusting them as my client. And it's a communication. That's the biggest part. We have to communicate. I need my client to be honest with me. If they're not, I'm going to be having skewed data. And then I'm going to be like, wait a minute, this just isn't right. Are you sure this? Are you sure that? But as long as we're being honest with each other, and to be honest, it's not like I know exact answers for everything. I have to see how your body responds, and it's up for you to tell me what's going on in your life. So then we can head the right direction. And then there's times we may have to go get blood tests or bring a doctor or something. If I'm doing everything that I know, we're going and doing everything right, but something is still askew, I'll be like, you know what? You probably should go get some blood tests, talk to your doctor, bring that back. Let's see what they say. And unfortunately, sometimes there's some other underlying cause that's going on in the body that we didn't know about, you know? But did I answer your question?
Yeah,
like I said, I can easily go on tangents.
So I mean, you might as well just do my job too, because everything you just said, I say specifically when we're talking about people's budget. It's the same philosophy. Literally everything you said, we do exactly the same thing, just when it comes to money, because you have to learn. And I talk about this a lot. Numbers are numbers. It is what it is. Your weight is your weight. It is what it is. Everything in between is more like art. Financial planning and dealing with your money is more like art. What you're talking about is more art based, right? I have to be able to like understand who you are, how it operates. Then I can kind of change things. Then you learn from that change, and then we can adapt. And it's more of an art form and a creativity thing in life than it is like you do this happens. You do this, you do this. That's not it. That is not life. I don't care who tells you that. That's not life.
Yeah,
I can
it's
promise.
not realistic. But I like the fact that you talked about it as art. I never looked at it that way. That's a good way of doing it because it's all about creativity. And you know how you said you had to get to know the client?
Yep.
Just like you have to see, what is this person's spending habit? What do they tend to like spend too much on or not enough on? It's the same thing with health and fitness, food or exercise wise. And it's about trying to help them find that balance, because they're still going to have that tendency, just like financially, they're still going to have that tendency. But where else can we change something so they can still have a little bit of that tendency? For example, you can still have, you know, your Oreo cookies or whatever every once in a while. That's something that I occasionally divulge in, or the double stuffed Oreos. I'm not going to lie, one of my little downfalls. But we have to be realistic. And that's why I tell people, it's like, you don't have to give up what you love. Because if you truly love something and that brings you joy, although we have to find out, is it true joy or is it masking something? That's another topic. But you can still have that. We just have to find out when's an ideal time for you to consume something like that. And same with money. They want to spend on going to the movies or going out to eat, you know? Okay, you don't have to completely stop going out to the movies and going to eat unless you're in really dire straits, but let's find a way where we can budget in other ways, because I have gone through the whole financial thing myself many times, up and down over the years as well. I mean, that's part of being a business owner and a human as in nature. We live, we need money to live. We need our bodies, our health, and our mind, and our spiritual nature and our mental capacity to live. I mean, like you said, everything intertwines.
It intertwines and it's okay, but everything takes time and it adapts. Like it really does. You just have to be open for it. So what is one thing you want to leave everyone with, whether that's to work with you, something, a little tidbit to go home with? What is that thing you want to leave everyone with today?
I would say, whether it's doesn't necessarily have to be working with me, but when you realize that I'm in this state, I'm not happy, I want to be here, whether that's realistic or not, but we have somewhere we want to be. The key is communicating and finding the appropriate person that you feel will be on your team, help guide you, motivate you, inspire you, and hold you accountable to help you get there. But at the same time, understand that you're the one that has to do the work. They're there to help guide you. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that hire coaches or mentors or financial planners or whatever it may be. And then when it doesn't go their way, they want to blame that person, but they're the ones in control of their actions. We're the ones guiding, as I'm sure you can imagine. You know, people, they're trying to get out of debt. Okay, these are some guidelines. Let's start doing this, but they don't necessarily take your advice. We can't control that, you know? So my biggest thing is, first, realize where you are now, where you want to be, and then do due diligence and research, because Unfortunately, in the financial industry, I'm sure it's similar as in the health and fitness industry. It's very cutthroat. It's really easy to call yourself a coach or a trainer, and a lot of people hire people based on how they look, unfortunately, and not based on their true expertise. So my biggest thing is just become very aware, and then don't be afraid to take that first step. But it does take that first step. You just have to reach out and then talk and communicate. I mean, it's about finding someone that you relate to. Like, like I said earlier, my clients, they love the fact that I pay attention to detail. They love that I'm correcting their form. Bring your shoulder down a little bit, bring that toe in a little bit. Let's get your hips down a little lower, drive your hips back. You know, if someone resonates with my style, resonates me paying attention to detail, I don't sugarcoat things. I'm going to tell it like it is. I'm pretty direct, straightforward, type A personality. So, you have to be able to receive that feedback and not take it personal if it's not what you want to hear. Because a lot of times I have to tell people what they don't want to hear. They want to hear that they can keep eating this and keep watching TV and not exercising much and just going for walks and still lose weight. And it's like, no, it's not as simple as that.
Life is not that simple, but it becomes more simple when you hire the team, the right team, the people you can work with, and stay motivated. Ultimately, what we want to take from this episode is take that next step. Communicate with us. We're all over the socials, obviously. We'll have that yours blasted as well. But ultimately, just take that step. We're here for you. Your team's here for you. We look forward to working with you.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.